Good morning to fellow white people. I have some thoughts. It is easier to show up to a protest than it is to accept that we are part of the problem. It's easier to get online, scream about all this injustice, than it is to go to your family, your white family members, and confront them about their support of Donald Trump. It's easier to go up to your black, indigenous, your friends of color, tell them you love them, you care about them, and you're so worried about them, than it is to realize we are also a threat regardless of who the fuck we voted for as white people. It's easier to wear a t-shirt that says you're a Democrat or some shit than it is for you to sit during the national anthem and to not do the fucking Pledge of Allegiance. It's easier to be performative than it is to put in any real fucking work. Performance does nothing. We have to dig deep, address the freeze response or the flight response that comes up when some hard shit that isn't even really hard, but in our brain, pushing against white supremacy for a lot of you feels like a threat. And we have to learn how to push through that shit if you want things to change. We have to do the internal work, understand white people are inherently racist. It's what we are born into. We benefit from a system. We look at how the system specifically interacts with and violates and is violent towards and harms black, indigenous communities of color. We figure out how we fit into that. We accept and understand that we benefit from the system, right? We understand that we have privilege. We have to have heavy conversations. You might have voted for Kamala Harris, but 10 of your family members voted for Trump. 3 out of 5 white men voted for Trump. 1 out of 2 white women voted for Trump. Open, overt white supremacy, racism, bigotry, xenophobia, homophobia, ageism, ableism, none of that shit was a deal breaker for them. And so that means we go talk to our families, and Royal Star talks about this, like really express your feelings. I am scared of how you're going to respond to me. I am worried that you're going to become violent with me as, you know, my white parent, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, whatever, if I tell you that I disagree with you. We got to do it though, because it's already too late. Like, we are in the middle of straight up fucking open, overt white supremacy, and you see it happening, unraveling every goddamn day. So we go to white friends, family, whoever. If you have Trump supporters in your life and you let them know, I do not agree with how you voted. It is violent. It's dangerous. It harms black, indigenous communities of color. It strips away your own humanity. It violates every ethic and moral. You don't represent Jesus. You do represent white evangelical Christianity, nationalism, white patriotism, which is all fucking dangerous. And in order to do that, we have to learn how to be in community with each other. So if I know you're going to go address family members or do some real ass shit, I got your back. So you can come back to me and 2 or 3 other people. I'll encourage you. We'll encourage you. Say, you got this. We're going to be right here after you get done to help you process through those feelings so we don't react and take it out on anyone that doesn't look like us. And then we offer each other support. We process with each other. We create spaces where we learn how to have conflict resolution. But it's way easier to perform for everyone and say I care when the real hard fucking work off the internet, in real life, with your friends, family, coworkers, whatever, that's where this shit counts. You gotta be willing to do the hard internal work and external work and interpersonal and relational work in order to move the fucking needle. White supremacy is violent. It's violent. So it makes sense if you're worried about it, but if you are scared of other white people, imagine how everybody else fucking feels. We can't even comprehend that. And then understand we represent it. Again, regardless of whoever we fucking voted for, we fit the description. Do the internal work. Find other white people that will help you navigate all this. Start building community. Get organized. And push back against those who are giving out every demonstration of white supremacy around you. Friends, family, doesn't matter who. Your shit isn't supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be comfortable. It's far beyond time for us to change and do something fucking different.
As a black person in America, I'm going to tell you guys this. I'm going to tell all the distraught white people this, is that you cannot get wrapped up in trying to understand the reasoning behind white people's cruelty. I'm going to say that again. Do not get wrapped up into trying to understand the logic, the reasoning, or to understand the cruelty of some white people. This is America. This is what a lot of white people in power do. Now, I'm not a psychologist, but I will tell you this. He is seeking acceptance from only one people that he will never get, no matter how many tax cuts he gives them. He wasn't accepted when he was a civilian in his home state. He's actually not a billionaire. He's a grifter. Everyone knows that. Banks know that. But see, I'm an optimistic guy. I'm an optimistic guy because I don't need Google or the government to tell me when Black History Month is. I don't need Google. I don't need Coca-Cola. I don't need Pepsi. I don't need any of it. You want to know why? Because corporations are not our friends. Corporations are not people. That's why they have marketing and advertising to make it seem like there's some mom and pop shop. They are billion-dollar corporations. They are not our friends. Why are you surprised that a corporation did something that they didn't have to do? Because it's all about getting your money. It is a trend. Civility is a trend in capitalism. Decency is a trend in capitalism. And the only reason why they haven't tried to sell us fucking air is because they can't figure out how to bottle it. Do not worry yourself with the reasoning behind why. You need to worry yourself with what you're going to react until you can be proactive. Right now we're in the reactive and the shock and the worry stage. What are we doing to be proactive? There's only one person, one politician that I see trying to be proactive, and that's Bernie Sanders. If you guys, I don't need to go through the timeline, but in 2016, when the Democratic powers that be decided to push Hillary for that agenda and she lost, well, there was that. When Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a lot of white women's savior, when she didn't step down for Obama, well, there was that. Those things were monumental to us leading up here also. But I'm a positive guy. I'm a positive guy, and I'm going to tell you, we shouldn't be worried about this right now. You're probably saying, what, Q? Why would you say we shouldn't be worried about this right now? Because we know what they're going to do. So what are we going to do? And I've been looking at this all wrong. I'm like, we need to organize. We need to organize. We need to organize. We need to do and make sure that we're attractive to enough people. We need to hold meetings. Protests can no longer, and this is going to sound very ableist, so I'm sorry, protests can no longer just be done through our phone. The phone is a tool. The phone cannot be the end all. We still need grassroots movement. And it's not, for the love of God, just marches and rallies. That's nice. What are we going to do when they ban the ability to organize? Because they're taking our rights one by one. One by one. We got 2 years. We actually have a year and a half to flip states. I'm begging someone to stitch this or to make a video of all of the people who are up for re-election in the House and the Senate. Forgive me if I mix it up right now. I can't really remember which one's which. I stayed up too late. But we have 2 years to flip it back. They're trying to get all of this done. They're trying to get all of this done in a year and a half because they know. You cannot assume that your enemy has a conscience and a limit. Hatred doesn't have a limit. Bigotry doesn't have a limit. Oppression doesn't have a limit. They're coming for everything. And this might be the one time where all the pews in the world can't stop it. Are white people okay? I'm going to ask that question repeatedly. Are white people okay? Because now more than ever, it seems that white people need black people to teach them how to effectively protest, how to bring about change, how to not fall for empty symbolic gestures, how to not fall for false olive branches, how not to be distracted, not to be placated. So are white people okay? It feels like no white person has read any guerrilla warfare tactic book at all. Because when we protest, we all make these big-ass gatherings that makes it easy for cops to come pick us off. Why aren't we doing small protests all around each city? Really disrupt the system. At least in LA, the cops have gone on record and said, we don't have the manpower to actually deal with all that. Why aren't we doing it downtown? Why aren't we doing it in Culver City? Why aren't we doing it in Koreatown? Why aren't we doing it in South Central? Why aren't we doing it in NoHo? Why aren't we doing it in the Valley? Why aren't we doing it all over? Why aren't we doing it in Sherman Oaks? Why aren't we doing it in Studio City? Why aren't we doing it in Burbank? Why aren't we doing it in Sunland? Why aren't we doing it in Glendale? Why are we not doing guerrilla warfare tactics when it comes to protesting? You see, the thing that I don't think white people are realizing nowadays is that the enemy is the U.S. government. See, during the civil rights era, it was racism and protest. We were fighting for equality, right? And now we're fighting fascism. And we're fighting against our own fellow people, our own fellow humans who are refusing to see it as such. You see, I don't care that he's in office now. We're failing to recognize the patterns and the steps that it took for him to get in office. And that is, one, he cheated again. And two, change was needed. And some people really feel like he's changed despite his track record. Do not conflate what is morally right with the law, because those two are at odds with one another. Do not confuse fascism now with the type of fascism that went on back then with the failed Austrian artists in Germany. That's a privileged take. Are we willing to come together and house those on the run? Are we willing to lie for those on the run? Are we willing to secretly educate those? Because it doesn't feel like we are. Are we ready to fight back? Are we ready to arm ourselves? Are we ready to protest consistently in waves every day? Are we willing to reach out to people who are running up for re-election in the House and in the Senate and try and flip those and try and talk to people in those cities and states to try and campaign for those people? It doesn't feel like it. And there's no one answer. There's nothing that we can tell each other to make ourselves sleep better at night. I know I haven't slept, really. I was up till 6 in the morning the other day. So the question is, are we willing to break the law to do what's morally right? Are we ready to give up our comforts? I know I am. If you're in LA, I'm going to try and rent out a space and get some organizers and get some speakers and have an event and have music, and I'm going to try and do this. I'm going to try and reach out to others who also want to do this. Because right now I feel like you guys are being paralyzed by fear. And you know what? We don't have the luxury to be paralyzed by fear. We need to be fighting back.
I'm seeing that a lot of people, more specifically members of a certain community, are being really bold with their arcism. You know? Understand this. Racism isn't as popular as you think it is. Not on an interpersonal level. Yes, you got your president, but you're down here with us. You're down here with us. You're not up there with him. That's where you're protected. Down here, you're not protected like that. He has people. You don't have people. I was watching a video about a woman named Tiffany Smith who said she got like her ropes and chains ready. What? I feel really sorry for these kind of people because they honestly think that white supremacy is going to protect them. It don't protect you down here. It protects you up there where you are not. I genuinely feel sorry for folks like that because they truly do believe that white supremacy will protect them. And to an extent it will, but not to the extent that they're expecting. They're expecting presidential levels of protection. Y'all have the police, sure, but to what extent will the police help you in your interpersonal lives? Truly, a lot of y'all need to just find something safe to do.
There's a group of people out here that can literally change the world, but they have every right to not to want to. And that is the black community. Because they do have more power than the white people. If they were to find their power and took leadership, they'll make some positive changes. But because our world is so racist and so masculine and there's no femininity in that area as well, that's why we are living the bullshit life we were living. And they have every right to watch the show and not do a thing because they told us, we ignored them, and now the whites are really the ones that are fucking around and finding out because they told us many years about everything that we're living in, and they have every right to watch the show and watch us struggle. They don't need to do anything because they tried. But because people are so ignorant, racist, and think they're better
So here we are.
There's a group of people out here that can literally change the world, but they have every right to not to want to.
Do you really want change, Mr. Dedication? Or are you looking for rescuing? And I know you're probably sitting there looking at me like, how is that any difference? If you rescue us from the state of what the country is in right now, you have the ability to change the trajectory of the future. And that's not exactly how it works, okay? With rescue, and let's just say 92% of black women, we grab our 86% of black men and we throw in a few YNs for the hell of it, right? Get real spicy. And we come in and we begin to rescue the country. That just means that your people are looking for the new coordinated B613 people. That group that has the discipline, the perseverance, the resilience, and the sacrifice to do whatever means necessary, even if it means putting ourselves on the line to remove the cancer from the system right now. And when we tame that fucking country that we in right now and we calm it down and the heights is over because we have removed the tumor, your people will come in and hit us with the thank you for your services, but we'll take it from here. And that's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for you to resume back to activities or normal practicing. No, because your version of democracy is not our version of democracy. Now, if you're going to hit me and say, no, I don't want us to resume back to normal. I want real change. Let me explain to you what change actually looks like. Change actually looks like the population for your people being quickly minimized in comparison to the population of my community that will vastly grow very quickly because the maternal mortality rate would decrease. That means but sickle cell patients won't be unalived in these hospitals. And that will be because the oath of the medical health system would be having a morale for all human life. It would not be teaching the physicians in your communities that black people are these metahumans that don't experience pain or have the same skin as any average human being. That would mean that all black people, the mothers, the unborn children, the newborn children, the sick people would receive adequate, quality, proactive, and reactive medical care. That means that the police brutality would stop amongst the men that are dropping like flies in my community. That would also mean that the exoneration numbers in the criminal justice system would begin to smaller. They would begin to damn near go away as well, because black men wouldn't consistently fit the profile and they wouldn't be given these excruciating, outlandish sentences for minor crimes, such as some flour dust in their pockets. They would be home and be able to get married and start children and families of their own. That means that the bottom line and the core of education system would be that all children deserve adequate education and that the funding for schools in my communities would actually get it so that we can get proper materials to keep up with your famous privates and charter schools. That the school to prison pipeline system would all of a sudden be eradicated because black boys and girls wouldn't be given such harsher punishments by leadership in these schools that are your people of your community, and they would not be getting such things as suspension so quickly, which would lead to incarcerations, because it would also mean that more black people will be incentivized to become educators and be given opportunities to become principals and do what is necessary for the kids in these communities. It would also mean that not only would we make up the majority in our own higher learning education institutions like HBCUs, but we would make up possibly more than 5% in your historical higher learning education institutions such as PWIs, because all of these black kids are doing what's necessary to get in, but they're not being told after a while that you only have a quota that you need to meet. It would also mean that the funding in my people's communities would be better, and that your people in your community would not be so quick to come over and have even the ability to gentrify it. Because when your real estate groups come out here and they flash very underwhelming numbers to the people in the communities, the very few people that have some level of properties in these communities and ownerships, my people wouldn't be so quick to take it, trying to have some generational wealth for themselves and their families. And then that also means that the people in these communities won't be pushed out, because your community loves to come in and try to take ownership of a very beautiful cultured atmosphere all of a sudden. Yet you will be policing these communities and or raising the prices, which makes it impossible for us to even maintain our living in these communities and or be arrested because you just don't feel comfortable around us yet. It would also mean that biased lending would stop in this country, and that black people wouldn't be seeing damn near 30% denial rate from any type of loan, versus a 12% denial rate in your community, and they would be able to get homes for themselves. They would also be able to get businesses for themselves based off of their culture. They wouldn't have to be forced to just be busboys and waiters and waitresses and facilities or institutions such as like cuisine, which is based off of their heritage. They would be owners of it. It would also mean that the entertainment industry would actually give just and right due, not only with accolades, but ownership to the people with the actual talent and the creativity of most of what's going on. And that would mean that damn near the whole music industry would be run by the same people whose music it actually belongs to, because all American music is black music, or was once seen as colored music. That would mean that your people and your community would be able to be comfortable with setting their ego aside and being able to admit that from the infrastructure to the very culture that you use as commodities and you export around the globe does not belong to you, and that they would be able to give credits to the very founding fathers of this damn country and all that it has created and brung. And if that is what change means, and you can accept that change in your community, well then by God, we are willing to do the change. We can do the work. But something tells me that's not what you're looking for. And listen, you can tell me yay or nay. It makes me know never mind. And I apologize that I don't really have trust for the people in your community. But I just don't believe that if your community, so say, wants this supposed change, that they would sit on the internet instead of using the power that they actually have right now to make space and way for my people to get the job done. We wouldn't be getting these sympathetic videos that is filled to me with some level of manipulative tactics of giving us accolades and praise to convince us to get up off our asses and do some shit for you. What it would look like is people in your community that understand too well that with change in this country, there is no peace. They would be the ones on the front line, blocking us and protecting my community and allowing us to organize and dictate on how this actually needs to operate and keeping us safe, because you know that you have the complexion for the protection and you will not be harmed when you stepped out there. You would be on the front lines convincing your people to infiltrate the system from the inside and allowing us to get space to do what is necessary, when this country would then truly be run off of merit. That is what a people that want change would do. That is what a people that know what change is would do. They would fight for it, not try to convince my people right now with sorrows and prayers that they just understand and we'll just be forced to all sit here and burn. So then again, I ask you, Mr. Dedication, do you want change or do you want to be rescued?
Supporting nothing but a scam.
The way China is spilling the beans on these luxury brands, okay? But the DH girls try to tell y'all. They tried to tell y'all, okay? When that Chinese man got on his app and said all the luxury items are made in China and they only go to Italy to have the tag put on it, the designer tag, and once that designer tag is put on it, now it can say made in Italy, because only that small little percentage was actually made in Italy, but that's all it takes to say made in Italy. Now it makes it over here to our designer boutiques, and we're spending thousands upon thousands of dollars for something that was in fact made in China, not Italy. I don't care how much you're spending on the thing. Chances are it is coming from China. The only part that was actually made in Italy was when they put the designer tag on there. And this is why the wealthiest of wealthy people buy inspired by items. Why? Why would you spend the whole day? Listen, I did a whole series on Birkins, and in one of the, you can see it in my like viral things I have pinned up there, but one of the videos was talking about the Birkin sort of like Tupperware party that all the wealthy Upper East Side women in New York have. They're not spending money on real Birkins. They're not shucking and jiving for Birkin. They call the people over in China and get the same things. Yeah, so if you know that people actually have Birkin connects direct to manufacturer. That's how they're getting them made. But the wealthy people, the people who are not like going through the foolishness of the Birkin game, the people who could care less because they don't need to look rich, they're actually not trying to look rich because they are wealthy. That's the difference. Those are the people I'm talking about. But y'all,
using your hard-earned money. Some people, their whole checks for the month 500, 800, 1,000, 3,000, 6,000 for knockoffs. We're worth 15 bucks. This whole time you thought you were getting the best clothes from Italy? Nah, it was just knockoffs from China. And I'm kind of confused on why exactly they're doing this. It's really a slap in the face of the people that love designer. A huge slap in the face. They're sending a message to the Americans like, you might as well not buy this. It's a waste of time. I think I can see why the upper class don't buy designer. It's usually how they keep the poor people poor. How many young individuals die for designer? Literally, people have lost their lives to get designer. This can be a very good thing for the future though. It's these huge big corporations that keep the young people poor. Like as soon as you get a little bit of money, you want to give it to the higher ups. I keep your money, bro. You was getting scammed this whole time. And the worst part about it is now if you want to sell it, people are going to be very hesitant to buy it. There's nothing wrong with liking designer, but just buy the fake stuff. Nobody gonna know.
You know the tariff war is getting bad because ain't no TikTok in China. So how are they all landing on our FYP? Now I know you've been seeing this guy all over your FYP. Well, he goes by the name of Sin Bags, and he's basically been exposing luxury brands, their costs, and how you can get these bags directly. Albeit you won't get the label, but you'll still get the quality material. And you've also probably been seeing this woman here. Well, she goes by the name of Luna, sourcing China, and she lets you know the distributors for some of your favorite clothing brands, including Lululemon. Now, people have been trying to figure out, why are these people coming across FYP? Well, here's the thing. We've gone through a tariff war with the United States and China China has started to reduce their regulations on a lot of things, which includes counterfeiting. If you guys didn't know, China is an authoritarian regime, and so they have strict guidelines when it comes to counterfeiting because prior to all the tariff wars, they used to have a relationship with the US, and China used to honor patents as well as trademarks for a lot of these luxury brands. Until the trade war happened, and then they just said, F it. Now, before the trade war, we were still able to get those dupes from the gate, if you know what I will. But that's because most of those distributors hadn't got caught yet. Because again, prior, China had this like, if we don't see it, it's not occurring type of policy. But if they did see it, then they would be taken down. And that's why a lot of those gate Alibaba, AliExpress type of companies would often go down, and it'd be really hard to find those distributors again because they would get caught. And then they would have to come back and rebrand as a new name, even though they still had the same material. But now that those regulations have been dropped, you're going to start seeing a lot more of these distributors basically just selling directly to you. And what makes the story even more funny is that TikTok's not in China, y'all. It's not there. It's under a different subsidiary name, but it's not TikTok. And those apps don't cross. So the fact that you're seeing these videos makes it even
America. That designer that you've been spending your money on, $200, $300, $400, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, all of your hard-earned money basically been going to knockoffs. If that's what y'all want to call them, Canal Street specials, if I might say. China is basically saying that your favorite designer gets their bags, their clothes, their shoes made in China, not Italy. So when you thinking you getting the finest of threads, you getting them from China. And now China is saying that they got them for the low, like they been had them, but they just not keeping it secret no more. So what they're saying is that designer that we've been wearing, they've been making, and they make them for cheaper, and we might as well not buy that designer that we've been buying. It's kind of strange to me because a lot of people been losing their lives to get designer. It's a lot of people that lost their lives over designer. And you're telling me that China's been making it? All I can say is this trade war is exposing the real from the fake and the fake from the real. If that makes sense. I'm out.
Are the brands we use every day overcharging us? My short answer is yes, and here's why. I believe that most people are aware of these, but for the people who may not know, what they reviewed is actually pretty shocking, because for products that are sold in hundreds or even thousands actually just cost a fraction of a price to manufacture. So how does these brands justify such insane markups? It comes down to this: we are not buying the product, we are actually buying the story. Brands spend millions of dollars each year into marketing strategies designed to make us feel a certain way, be it making us feel more confident or giving us a sense of identity or even selling you a status. Remember, they don't just sell a product, they sell the results of you owning it. And because we attach emotion into what we buy, we often do not question the price we pay. We want to feel successful, we want to be stylish, we want to be somebody, and branding gives us this feeling. So the next time you buy something, think about what you're actually paying for. If it still makes sense to you, then sure, go ahead. But at least now you are making a more informed decision.
So wait, let me get this straight. For years, we've been called conspiracy theorists about big corporations just slapping the Made in America or Made in France logos on everything. And all of these products were actually made in China. And now, Chinese manufacturers, they are straight up exposing them. Posting videos, receipts, factory floor footage, it's all out there. Turns out that $800 handbag, that luxury artisan cookware, yeah, that all costs $7 to make in China. Your favorite woke corporation, they just slap their logo on it and sell it back to you for 100 times the regular price. And here's the kicker. The same corporations are out here crying about Trump's tariffs, claiming it would ruin business. No, what ruined business is out here lying to Americans while outsourcing jobs, exploiting labor, and, well, pretending to be premium brand. Now, the Chinese manufacturers, they are cutting the middleman and they are going straight to the source, the American people. Yes, you have to order in bulk, like 100 plus units. But they're offering the transparency in the U.S. that corporations are refusing to give. Here's the truth. Trump's tariffs, they didn't hurt the American consumer. They hurt globalist corporations who are overcharging Americans, all while profiting off of huge profits by cheap labor. And now they're getting exploited by the very factories they exploited themselves. So if you're a small business owner, this is your moment. You could work directly with suppliers, you could build your own brand, and cut all the corporate snakes out of the equation. Just know what you're doing, because not everything is worth buying in bulk. But hey, the opportunity's there, right? Tariffs didn't fail, greed did. And Trump warned us. Now it's all coming to light.
Come with me to check out China's biggest luxury wholesaler. Thanks to President Trump's recent tariffs, Chinese manufacturers for luxury brands like Hermes, Chanel, LV, etc. are coming out of the woods and offering direct sale to us peasants and the US at a pinch of the price. When you walk in, they hand you gloves because the goods you're about to handle are still the same top quality. I've never seen so many Hermes bags lined up in front of me, let alone try every size and color on like I'm in Walmart. Best part is there's no sales assistant stalking you, no upsells, and you're only paying 20% of the price. These only range from $250 to $500. That's a steal. Manufacturers are exposing luxury brands for what the bags actually cost. Now that Donnie's pissed off the peasants, all hell's broken loose.